everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And today we're really excited. We are talking about one of the Up movies this year, this season. We're talking about Christmas at the Amish Bakery. And I was thinking of who would be the best person to help me cover this film. And I thought of one of the first people I thought was Galadriel Stineman, and because she's been in so many of these Amish movies, been in several of these Amish movies, and she agreed. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Galadriel.
Thank you for having me. That's why you kind of threw it out there as that could be fun. And I was like, email me, let's do it.
Yeah. So you were on the podcast with your husband, Kevin, and that was so much fun. And I really enjoyed that interview. And so it's so good to have you back.
Yeah, us too. I mean, I remember it very specifically, which is why,
Mhm.
I followed along with what you've been up to and was excited to come back on,
Yeah.
especially talking Amish.
Yes. So how has your 2023 been? You had a good year?
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, 2023 was a great year. The strike definitely hit us
Yeah,
really hard and
sure.
caused us to pivot like a lot of people. We weren't able to act for quite some time.
Yeah.
But we filled that with teaching. Kevin and I are both acting teachers also, and strengthening connections and doing a lot of writing. So
Oh,
not
that's
straying
right.
too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And you have a new book, right?
I do. I
Yeah,
have,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And
So
tell us about that.
great. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I even brought it in case you want to see it because it's very
Yes.
appropriate for the season. It's called Planted in Christmas.
Oh,
Um,
that looks really cute.
Yeah, I mean, I started as somebody who always liked the genre of Christmas movies and that world, and then was lucky enough to become a part of that world as an actor. And
Hmm.
then it was sort of a happy accident. I got a publishing deal. I was starting to come up with some ideas for scripts, and so this is my
Uh-huh.
second book. The first is Love Against the Autumn Sky. I write under the pen name Willa Frederick. It's an open pen name. It's not a secret, so everybody
Right.
that. And it's been so great. But I think now that's another reason why I wanted to come on, is because now that that book deal's fulfilled and I'm going to be out there promoting it, ready to, I want to go in with both feet now on these kinds of scripts too. So I
Yeah.
just love every part of this genre.
Oh, that's great. We'll put a link down to that to an affiliate link. People can purchase that book because that looks really fun.
Yeah, it's a Christmas rom-com, right?
Yeah.
Right on the theme. But what can I say? We
Yeah.
love Christmas all year long, right?
Well, tell us a little bit about it. What the plot in a few sentences.
Planet in Christmas is actually, this is the first story I've written where all the main female characters are named after my best high school friends because
Oh,
there's
that's cute.
really, including the villain, one of the villains. But I cleared it with my friend first. I was like, your name in the book or not? And she was like, that's fine. She's like, she was Cassie in high school anyway. So this particular story is about an influencer.
Okay.
Especially during COVID, I fell into watching a lot of these houseplant influencers, and people were spending thousands on these crazy rare houseplants. So that's
Yeah.
her world. And then she
Uh-huh.
comes up with a PR disaster. And all she wants to do is get a show on sort of their version of HGTV. And she's so close. She has a PR disaster that is 100% her fault. She has
Mm-hmm.
to do. And through happenstance, she decides to try to repair her image by helping a struggling Christmas tree farm. So you get
Oh,
a
that's
lot of
cute.
this city versus she's used to doing everything indoors and perfectly
Uh-huh.
with camera. He's used to doing everything outside. And it all takes place in the beautiful town of Twin Falls, Idaho, which is where my publisher is located. And I went and visited to do a signing for my first book. And what they do for that place at Christmas is it's a Hallmark movie. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's all the parts of that and all the parts of all that and all the parts that we love to see. And so I'm hoping at some point I'm going to start shopping this too to see if it
Yeah.
feels like a movie, right? So
Right.
that's on my slate as well. Our film adaptations of these stories because I
Yeah.
just love the world.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. So when you write, are you a pantser or a plotter?
Oh,
do
I am a
you
plotter. I am a
plotter? Okay.
huge outliner. Probably because in my life I'm so right-brained and like not linear that without it, I just go nowhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm actually I've got a really exciting project. I can't say too much about right now, but I have a very an idol and friend of mine who's attached. We've been working
Oh,
on it together, and I'm just now beginning the proper treatment, and it is already totally outlined for that. So the ideas play around in my head for a long time, but I got to get them in order before I can start writing.
yeah. That's great. Yeah, I think I would probably be more the pantser, but like I've got to have like some you got to have some ideas of what your characters and your I think most writers are probably not that I'm a writer, but like most writers are probably some combination of the two in reality.
Yeah, and I mean, almost everybody's a writer, right? We tell stories,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time to realize that as an actor, and understanding how to, I was basically reversing the structure of stuff, figuring out what my character
Yeah.
wants, what's going to get in the way. And
Hmm.
so, that's the one thing I talk to my students about, who are mostly actors all the time, is like, if you're a creative in any way, you are
Hmm.
a writer. And it took me so
Yeah.
long to start writing because I didn't think I had the
Yeah.
capacity. And then during COVID, we were all like, what's happening with the world? And I was like, what do
Right.
I have to lose? I might as well try it. And it
Yeah.
turned out all right. And the
Yeah.
one thing I took from that is like the confidence, the openness to learn, and then the
Yeah.
finishing a thing are really what makes a
Hmm.
writer that calls themselves a writer. That's it.
That's true. Well, and as a film critic, I'm constantly breaking down stories,
Yeah.
other people's
You're a
stories.
writer. And by that, some of
Writing
the
about
best writers are former editors
uh-huh.
because they've seen
That's
the
interesting.
problems and
Yeah.
stories. And so you've identified, like, oh, this one really held my attention because of this, or
Yeah.
this one helps because of this. So I'm just saying, let's get it out there,
Yeah.
Rachel. Let's
Yeah.
get it out there.
Uh, well, so you were in two Amish themed movies. Is that correct? Or is there three? Three. Okay. So three. So the
I think I've been told I currently have the record of because
so
none of them were
oh yeah,
sequels.
Runaway Romance. So you were in Runaway Romance, and then you were in Follow Your Heart,
Mm-hmm.
and then in Plus One at the Amish Wedding.
Yep.
And what did you learn kind of the most in making what are some of the things that you learned in making these movies about the Amish and
Um,
just in general?
yeah, I mean, it was interesting because Runaway Romance was not only my first Amish movie, but it was my first rom-com as an adult. I had
Uh-huh.
played like the teenage daughter on a couple Hallmark movies. And so it was the first time of playing a lead where there's, romance and story and all that. So I was learning both on that. But I was fortunate enough in that case. It's sort of a double-edged sword when an actor gets offered something, because a part of you is like, yay, they feel confident enough, they don't need to see me try it. But when you see that it's Amish, then the other part is like, what about me makes them think I can do this? Like, they don't even need to see me do it. So that level of panic really meant that I did a lot of preparation,
Yeah.
probably too much the first time around. And
Uh-huh.
the director of that one, Brian Herzlinger, he does a lot of Lifetime Christmas movies
Yeah.
now.
We love him.
He took
Yeah.
it, yeah, Brian's awesome. He took it so seriously too. So he's like, I want you to watch this for inspiration. Here's this. And then I was sending him things. I'm like, you got to see the PBS American experience about the
Yeah.
Amish.
Yeah.
Um, and I bought all the Idiot's Guide to the Amish. They have that. Like, I bought everything and went down that rabbit hole. So then when I did the second one that my husband Kevin, we did for Hallmark, Follow Your Heart.
Yeah.
Um, so that one, I already felt like the expert. And Kevin was like, okay, well, I'm the one who has to be more Amish in this. So where's all the books? I'm like, you told me that they were taking up shelf space. So I got rid of them. And so we'll order them again. So we ordered them again. And that one, I could kind of coast along. But I started to really see what was, I wasn't so panicked about my own performance. I started to really be able to look at the story of these, got to really
Mhm.
get a perspective on the Amish culture. Um, I felt like a veteran. So then by the third Amish movie that I did with Kevin also, Plus One at an Amish Wedding, which is just finished its tour on Up also, and Runaway Romance was also up. And now it's just out there I don't know, wherever they go. I think it's on like Amazon and
Yeah.
all those things. But we were brought on as producers, which was great.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
I sort of dubbed myself, let's be real, the
Uh-huh.
unofficial armchair Amish expert. Because by that point, I had also started, at that point, I hadn't seen an Amish Christmas movie, at least one that I felt like really captured the Amish stuff. So I was like, I'm
Uh-huh.
going to start writing one. So that's when I started writing my first one. And so it was great because I was able to be like, okay, the Amish wouldn't do this. Like, I know enough now to be like, this doesn't fit. Even there were wardrobe stuff I was changing on set. I was like, mm-mm, mm-mm. But, and then there's some things in the where it's just like, yes, this isn't. And we'd get the complaints, the other armchair experts that watch at home, right? They'd be like,
Uh-huh.
that's how the
Uh-huh.
Amish do it. But occasionally there had to be creative choices, like when
Sure.
meals together and things that it's like, no, they wouldn't do that, but we need that for the story. So we're aware that that's not quite how the Amish would do it, but we're taking just like any, story like Elvis or something, right? There's creative
Right.
liberties you have to take to tell the story. So,
Sure.
but you want to know what they are. It's good
Yeah, yeah.
just because as you talk about the Amish, like it's a community that I've grown to really respect and have a lot of admiration for. And I want to honor the true things about the spirit of their culture, whether
Yeah.
I'm playing it, whether I'm writing it. And I like to see it when I watch it.
Yeah. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun to do the roles with your husband, but sometimes couples in real life can come off a little bit flat because that like tension isn't, I think, because they're so comfortable with each other,
Yeah.
you know? And so I was curious, is that something that how is that experience like when you're paired with your real life partner, your real life husband, and
Yeah.
making sure it comes across on screen, that
There aren't
chemistry?
too many people who can weigh in on that, right? We're kind of a
Yeah.
club of people who do romantic movies with their spouse. There's
Right.
more of us, but we really should all be friends because it's a very unique
I mean,
experience.
you'd be surprised how often we're just like, wow, the chemistry is just not there. And I think it's because they're just so comfortable with each other
Yeah, well,
because
I
they're
think
married.
sometimes like one of the actors is really suited to the genre because there's such a specific
Mm,
energy and all that, and the other kind of
yeah,
gets along because they're.
that's true. That's
And we had both had experience separately
uh-huh.
in that way, and that's why on Follow Your Heart, the producers who had also produced Runaway Romance had met Kevin when he came to set and were just like, we gotta, what are we doing? Like, this is easy casting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
And I think for us, one of the reasons why it worked really well and is fun is because like we've been married for a long time now, 13 years. We have 2 kids, and for us to get to go do this, it's almost like dating again. It's
yeah.
fun, and we actually get that time, and we're both doing the thing we love the most. And so I think for us, the only time it was the thing on Follow Your Heart was actually at the very last scene of the movie, or at least the original version. I can't remember how it changed when it ended up on the air. There's always
Sure.
changes in editing. But where we share a kiss in the buggy and we go off. And that was the one where the director was like, But he's like, all right, guys, you can't kiss like you know exactly where the other person's head is going and all that.
Right.
And we were like, but we were just like, oh yeah, duh. Like we were like, we'll do it again. We got it. Just because we kind of just fell into our routine of kissing. But other than that, I mean, it's such a blast, and it's always fun because everybody who comes to set that doesn't know, it surprises them. They're like, oh, you guys are a real couple. That explains like your chemistry. And I was like, yeah, also I feel like we'd be crossing some boundaries of like polite professionalism, you know. But it's honestly, we've got a couple other opportunities sort of in the pipeline with other production teams that were put on hold during the strike to work together. Not Amish, shockingly. And we're just like, we hope those come through more than some of the like other jobs that are, you know, on network and this and that, because they're so fun.
I hope so too. Yeah, it was funny. There was a movie called The Happy Camper this year with I don't know if you saw it. It had Danielle and Bo.
I didn't see it, but I know them.
It's a real it's
from the middle.
A married couple. Yeah, from the middle. Super cute. I enjoyed the movie. But the end, the kiss, it was like, wow, that was a kiss. You could tell they're married in real life.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because they live in Nashville now. And I met up with them. My best friend lives in Nashville. So I met up with them a couple summers ago at this vineyard, and it was great. And she was like, you know, I've retired from acting. He's retired from acting. It's so cool that you guys get to do this stuff together. And I was like, would you ever consider it? She's like, well, we're not like pursuing it, but I guess if like someone approached us, yeah, we would. And so when I saw her post that, I was like, how funny.
Yeah, that is
because we all met on the middle, and you know, they met on the middle, and it's fun to see how that middle family you know, has grown up.
Yeah, it was such a good, I loved that show.
Yeah,
I really did
too. I was a fan before I was on it, and that's why it's still doing so well in reruns.
Yeah,
you know,
I never understood why I didn't get like the Emmy love and the, you know, the other, because I just thought it was so well written, well acted, and I don't know, and just the kid cast that was
that's what I was
outstanding
too. I mean,
Eden was so good.
Should have gotten
for sure,
and definitely Patty got.
Yeah,
so many scenes from to my students. One that really comes to mind about how to like have those not go into the land of Disney Channel, you know, not go that way was the royal wedding episode. And it's so important to Frankie, Patty's character, Eaton, who's still a good friend of mine. And she's just like losing it. And she goes and she does this like monologue by their fireplace. Like I can still see it in my head. And I think that was before I was on the show. It was the first royal wedding. And I was just like watching it like, I hope I can do that one day.
Yeah.
And so much I learned about comedy on my seasons on it, watching her, by working with the incredible directors we had. Even Charlie, who played Axel, who's nothing like his character in real life, which I should know as an actor, but I was just like, oh, you're really smart and quiet. And then Eden, my gosh, from such a young age, I don't know
good.
How she could do it. I don't understand why she's not in everybody's living room right now. Like, I would love to just be her publicist and be like, everybody hire Eden Chair.
I agree.
I think they already try to hire Patty all the time. She's fun, but I'm like, where is Eden? She is devastatingly good.
Yeah, agreed. Well, let's talk about this Christmas at the Amish Bakery. And so this was on UPTV, and it was directed by Jeff Hare and written by Scott Kirkpatrick and Jennifer Snow. And it stars Alexandra Harris and Sean Coding. And the little summary is: New York book editor Sarah heads back to her Amish family farm. With the help of a handsome local outsider, Dean, a friend of the Amish, they hope to save her family's bakery. I don't feel like that's a very good description of the movie. It's not really about saving the bakery.
It doesn't do it any justice, no.
Well, I mean, it's not the actual plot. Like, the plot isn't about her saving the bakery. The plot is about her.
That's what the family thinks. Right?
No, the plot is about her her being asked by her publisher to write this Amish cookbook. And her sister runs a bakery, but the bakery's not like in huge, like that's just hardly a plot point. But so she starts to write this cookbook with her family, and there's this outsider, this Englisher, who is there, and they hit it off, and so that's a better description.
Yeah.
But overall, you like the movie.
Yeah, I love the movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can be a tough critic on the Amish ones, because I'd be like, no, that's not, no. If only we had it, you know. But this one I actually found myself getting more lost in and enjoying. And I thought the story was really sweet. And you know, it's kind of fun to be able to watch them from the outside, especially like as a writer now. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I was more watching like what the writer was doing. Oh, I see, you know. And I thought the story, especially for this genre, was really artfully written, you know.
Yeah.
And it was fun to watch. It really was. And I say that because I would have said that anyway, but I might have meant it less.
Right.
I said that to Kevin before I came down. I was like, I get to go down and be honest. I really
well, I mean, I messaged you before and I'm like, did you like it? Because I mean, I wouldn't want to put you in an uncomfortable situation.
It's fine. I'm an actor. I'm really good at tactfully finding the things that go well. And, you know, I mean, I've had to do that about projects I've been in before. So.
For sure. But yeah, I thought it was really cute. I do think the acting's a little stiff. It's not like a perfect film by any means, but I think that it was a really lovely little family story, even more than the romance, which was perfectly fine, cute. Was more I thought the relationship between her and her sister and her dad, and the forgiveness that kind of happens. And it was nice because a lot of times in movies with traditional religions, the people are only shown as being judgmental and prudish and rude,
or it's the opposite, right?
You know,
like it's like clearly meant for an audience that is like very religious. Like I feel like usually a good middle ground.
Yeah. If it's like an outright faith-based film, then then anybody who's not religious is terrible and a threat and a horrible person. All that. Yeah, you do have those extremes. And I just really appreciated that her family was loving, and they were sad that they hadn't seen her, and you know, that they were happy she was back. And there was never a sense of like, you could tell that they were sad that she wasn't living the faith, that she wasn't there, but not as judgmental as sometimes you see.
Yeah, and they kept talking about choice, you know, which is such a big thing about the Amish faith. You know, there was a script I was consulting on at one point, and they were trying to do something, making it sound like arranged marriage. And I was like, you can't even, for the sake of like, of making this, you know, dramatization, do that. It's the opposite. The Amish are all about like adult choice and everyone having their own choice and no one being forced into anything. And, you know, I actually said to Kevin, I was like, what a beautiful way to handle this. There was a line where Zoe, the little girl, is talking to Sarah. Sarah's the one who left, right? The main girl.
Yes.
And and she says, like, shouldn't you be in there praying with them all or something? And she says something about like, you know, I give thanks or something in my own ways. And I was like, what a great, like, to me, I thought that was great, because then also it wasn't like a conflict with the faith that became the center of the story.
Right.
I'll ask you a question. When the at the beginning, when the brother-in-law comes in to talk to the sister, I totally was like, he's going to say they're complaining that she's here. Like, I thought it would be like, you got to get rid of her. And it wasn't. It was about like the bakery. But I was so like, oh, they're not going to want her there. And that was like never a thing.
And I thought her dad was going to be more bitter, you know? And like we had on Hallmark Channel this
this year there was this movie, what was it called, with Michael Rady, where oh shoot, I should have had it if I was going to make this analogy, but it was with Michael Rady and Lindsay Finesca. Where Are You Christmas? I think is what it was called. Anyway, and it's kind of like a Pleasantville kind of a thing where she wishes for no more Christmas and everything turns black and white. It was weird, but
I was like, love Pleasantville. Not sure how you repeat the magic.
but the dad in that movie was so bitter that his daughter had moved to gone away to the city, and was so angry and like, how could you leave me and abandon me, and everybody leaves and all this stuff. And I was just like, what? Like, that's just not reasonable. Like, I mean, people move, people live different places. It's not a personal attack. Like, it was just so ridiculous to me. And so I was expecting a little more of that energy from the dad. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he was just like, I'm so happy to see you. I love you. You're my daughter. I raised you right. Like, yeah,
it wasn't an issue. There was like a lot of security there. And, I mean, that's one of the tough things about writing for the Amish community, right? Is because they are insular and private in general. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what us writers like do with it is speculation. I mean, it's putting together everything we know, but I mean, I've been at the airport there's been like a couple Amish families flying, and I've been like looking at them like, I just want to go talk to them. And Kevin's like, they don't care how many Amish movies you've been in. They're not watching them. And I'm like, but they're the real thing. I want to know.
The real thing.
I mean,
in the wild.
Right. I know. I was like, they probably appreciate how much respect I have for them. Like, I just want to like know what they think about some things. But, like on Runaway Romance, our animal handler was ex-Amish and still his family still lived nearby and stuff. And so like that, I felt like it's so hard to get accurate firsthand information unless you just happen to be a part of this community. And of course, I respect them too much to be like, I'm going to go become a part of the community to like use that in film. I mean, it's so much. I don't know if you know this or not, but in Pennsylvania, and it might have changed, but in Pennsylvania, you can't get their tax incentive if you do an Amish movie. And that's why so many, even though that's the obvious place to go to do Amish movies, right? Lancaster County and all that. But they have an arrangement with the Amish communities there. They don't want people just coming to Pennsylvania and trying to exploit their community. So that's something that they have, which is why these Amish movies that they want to look accurate, they go to these other places, and these states like Kentucky does have a pretty vibrant Amish population. I know this one was set in Kentucky. I'm not sure where they actually shot it. Do you know?
Let's see if it says it on the IMDb. United States.
The only reason that I would be surprised if it was in Kentucky is because that's where I'm from, and I'm very involved now with like the film community there. And I would just be surprised I didn't hear of it because everybody there is like, oh, she's the rom-com Kentucky girl.
Yeah, and
unless it happened in I don't know when they shot it actually either. Maybe it was a previous year, but yeah. So somewhere there. I mean, when we shot in Arkansas, we did Follow Your Heart and Plus
yeah, it could have been Indiana too. You don't know.
Yeah, but like there were no Amish people in Arkansas when we were filming it. Like, so people will cheat it for Pennsylvania and stuff like that. Yeah. But and I thought they did a great job. And to me, I was like, there were some things that as a writer I really took note of. I was like, what a great way to honor that culture without exploiting it, without making it seem foreign. Like it kind of just became a family. There are a lot of times where it didn't have to be, you could have just changed it to like a small town who doesn't want to sell out their family local business to like the big corporation. And it didn't have to be Amish. It just happened to be Amish.
Right. Yeah. And I liked, I mean, she said, as long as you haven't made a vow of faith and broken it, you're allowed to keep ties with family. Yeah. So that was interesting and helpful, and I liked that, and it was fun to see all the different baking and the different. And they say that as long as they power with the energy they create, it's fine. I guess. And
The
I didn't know that.
generator. It's the minute they, like I said, my writer brain was the minute they showed a clip of Rachel firing up the generator. I was like, genius. Because we get that all the time. Like somebody will spot an outlet somewhere. So the first thing I saw too when they show the house, the producer and me, as I was like, do I see telephone wires? Nope. Even though a lot of them are wired for that for resale value,
Yeah.
they have electrical capabilities. That is one thing that like fans complain about so much. Like they see something that needs electricity. So of course my brain went there and I was like, none of that. And they showed that generator. Oh, genius. Now they can get away with so much for like lighting and
Yeah.
But that makes sense. I mean, from what I know, it's like they can have people drive them.
Yes.
They can go, not some of the more liberal communities will now go by plane, but they've always been able to go by train and things like that. So I thought that was smart. And I definitely put that in my writer back pocket for like, remember the generator is an option.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's author Jennifer Snow and her book, A Lot Like Christmas. This Christmas season, in best-selling author Jennifer Snow's steamy rom-com, A Lot Like Christmas, love comes where you least expect it. For Jessica Connolly, there is no better place than her coastal hometown of Blue Moon Bay. She has a wonderful family, supportive best friends, and a successful bakery on Main Street. Unfortunately, every time she designs one of her ex-boyfriend's wedding cakes, she's reminded just how unlucky she is with love, and that she's a good luck charm for men to find their happily ever after with someone else the minute they break up. So she's decided to be done with love. Dr. Mitch Jameson is more comfortable traveling the world with Doctors Without Borders than staying in one place. He just needs to survive the holidays in his small hometown before he can leave again. The beautiful, intriguing bakery owner with an aversion to dating might be just who he needs to occupy his restless heart. From sipping hot chocolates at the local Festival of Lights to early morning dessert deliveries, Jessica and Mitch rediscover the spirit of the holidays. But when the 25 days of Christmas are over, will their romance be over too? Adapted as an UPTV holiday movie, readers can catch a sweeter version by watching Christmas Lucky Charm. And you can purchase A Lot Like Christmas wherever you purchase your holiday reads or by using the affiliate link below. What did you think of Dean as our Englisher leading guy in this?
Do you want which opinion?
I mean, I
my favorite.
Yeah. No, you can be real.
It's kind of nice not promoting my own project.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought he was cute.
Yeah.
I thought he was a little low energy. He was a little flat. I didn't quite buy him as a dad. I thought he had some really nice scenes with Sarah where I was like, okay, I see some chemistry here. But
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I would have cast him in that. I think I would have gone a little older. A little, it's another tricky thing with casting, right? With the Amish, because, and all the Amish people that I have met, including ex-Amish, they do tend to be more introverted and quiet. And I felt like, especially with the father in this and stuff, they kind of kept that, whether I don't know if they intentionally did that or they just got a guy who was a little more. But then I was like, then I feel like we need more charisma and oomph from the male to the Englisher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can see that. He was just okay for me, but and I thought they had all right chemistry. The ending I didn't love in this, that like he would get so upset that she was gonna publish this book, like
more than her family.
It was her job. Yeah, that she would get more upset. Like her family's fine, and like everybody knew that. I mean, she was there to write this. It's not like it was this. I don't know. It
wasn't a big enough obstacle.
No, and I mean,
and then how quickly he was like, "Well, you forgive." Well, then I forgive. You know what? Give me that present.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was fun having him.
It's at least 6 or 7 hours from Chicago. So I'm like, he dropped off the gift, brought her in the car back. Is it the same day? I'm pretty sure they're wearing the same outfits, aren't they?
Yeah. And her boss was totally over the top, like a bad woman of business. Like she was just ridiculous.
I know from the beginning, I was like, why? I love when there's like, as much, especially as an actor, I want there to be as much like contrast, like I want to feel tugged, like, oh, I
Yeah.
want this, but then if that. But from the beginning, I was like, well, I don't want her to work there anymore.
But I think that Alexandra was strong in this
Yes.
lead. I liked her, and
I thought she was
particularly,
great. She was
yeah,
adorable. She was sparkly. She carried this energy. I thought she was great for the genre.
yeah,
Cast.
and her with Zoe, the little girl. I
Yeah.
thought those were nice scenes, and that,
That
like I said,
little
with her,
girl was really cute.
yeah,
The
she
way
was
that she
real
played that,
cute.
so precocious. I thought she did a nice job.
Yeah, and then her sister,
Mhm.
Rachel, and she's Francesca Barker McCormick. I thought she was good, and I liked
Yeah,
her
she was so
dad.
warm and
Yeah.
that grounded. Yeah, I loved a lot of the scenes between the sisters. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
they really looked
Yeah,
like sisters. I was like, it's a
they
good thing
did.
one's Amish and one's not, or I'd be mixing them up.
They did a good job with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like
And
the dad. Did you like the dad
yes,
casting?
I did. I did. I liked the dad. Like I said, he was different than I was expecting. When I first saw him, I was like, oh, he's gonna be this, like
He
this,
looked like, yeah.
yeah, like in this Where Are You Christmas. I thought he was gonna be like that dad, and he wasn't. He loved his daughter. He'd done the best he could in raising his daughter, and that he was happy
Yeah,
to see her.
he's like a man of the earth, or like,
Mm-hmm.
when in Kentucky we tend to say it as a positive thing when we say a good old boy.
Yeah,
The
right.
man of few words, like good old boy. And I'm sorry, but you should play a bit of it again and like walk away and just listen to his voice. That dude has a voice. I was like Kevin was walking around. I'm like, do you hear his voice? Like I was like, I feel like I should just like obey. I
Yeah,
hope that guy does voiceover. Like I would listen
yeah.
to an audiobook 100% with it.
G. Michael Nicolosi is the name. Let's see what is he done.
Yeah, what else has he done?
Yeah,
I've never seen him before that.
yeah, nothing that I've seen before, but yeah, he was good. He's got 4 upcoming projects, so he's busy. Way
He's
to go.
busy. I love
Yeah,
that. Well, and
good
he was
job.
just sometimes people are just well cast where it's like, I don't know what
Yeah,
else he can do. Maybe that's his thing, but I would totally
yeah.
hire him to do that thing.
Yes, and they did a good job with all the, like, the cooking scenes were all fun. What you
Mhm.
want out of this kind of a
I like
thing.
the
The
friendship bread thing. I thought that was
hmm
so cute that she sends it every year.
Yeah.
You know? And so
Oh,
the Christmas story that I was working on, I'm working on, I guess, always working on, has because the tradition of the Christmas cards, um, it's interesting because they didn't really highlight that, but that's sort of the premise of a script I'm doing. And so I was really watching, oh, that came up. And I thought that was like a really specific detail because the Amish will often make beautiful handmade Christmas cards for their Englisher neighbors. Like that's a thing they do that they don't do for each other. Like it's their way of like gifting to the community, or maybe some do, but it's known
yeah.
like people have collected these books of these like Amish made English or Christmas cards. So I thought that was kind of a cute thing at the beginning that they didn't even like,
Yeah.
elaborate on, but I was like, oh, that's so cute. Like, because I've spent a lot of time looking up those cards.
Yeah.
That was very accurate.
Yeah, that was
They get Amish accuracy points from me.
that was good. The only thing about the cooking scenes I did not like is I was just like, you need to tie up your hair. Like they had long hair
Right? Like,
flowing all over.
no, it's that I didn't get. I'm like, I get that we're making her look more Amish, but why is now her hair straightened down, which is like not at all. It was like her Amish hair, but
Yeah.
same. How gross. Look, I just cut my hair, but I have a
Yeah.
lot of it anyway. And if I don't have my hair back in a ponytail when I'm cooking, like you don't want to eat my food.
Yeah. Especially like a commercial establishment where they're baking all day.
I
No,
know.
no.
Yeah, and it's like no gloves, no.
Yes. So that was my but the sister bakes just from memory. So that's obviously kind of making things tough in writing the cookbook. But
Mhm.
her sister was pretty much on board with the idea of the cookbook. And then also she was kind of on board pretty quickly of like, well, we're just gonna do it this other way. We're gonna self-publish. We're not gonna go with our publisher. And like she was a good person. There was never a
Yeah.
sense of like her being corrupted by business.
Yeah, and actually, I was going to ask you a question about that. Did I miss? I felt like the let's self-publish it from Sarah like came out of the
Mhm.
blue. Was there a place where because she just like proposed that in the conversation, why don't we self-publish that? And I was like, wait, when did we do that 180?
They didn't want, it was the sister, I think, said they didn't want to be part of the big publishing
corporation.
company, and that was part of the community rules. He
So we
said,
just think that kind of came
if
up
there
with that
were,
on the fly, I
he
guess.
says if there was a way to be part of it and honor community rules, I'd consider it. And then that's when she says, "What about
What about?
self-publishing?"
Oh, okay. That makes more
And
sense.
then
I
and
was
then
like,
she hires him to do the drawings,
which
because
we saw that one coming, didn't we?
yeah, because they don't have, obviously they don't have photography and everything, and so it's how he becomes kind of involved in this whole thing, and then he gets all pouty at the end because he's like, "You're not going to use my drawings to for your corrupted big city book, and all this stuff."
He seems to
And
really poo-poo on his old career too. I thought that was interesting, where he's like,
yeah.
I don't want to exploit Zoe anymore. And I was like, but you did for many years.
Well, and he says no payment required. The only condition is that he gets to taste what he drew.
Yeah.
And that's not, I mean, you should want to get compensated
Well, or
for
I'd
your
be like, or
work.
they
And
should be like, you're at least getting like a royalty.
yeah.
It's not
I
like
mean,
the dude's got jobs going on like crazy at the moment.
yeah, I mean that's why the summary is so confusing, because the bakery was it even like in that? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
Like
you
it was
know
not
what?
a big plot. Like Save the Bakery was not a big plot of this movie.
You know what though? As someone who's done a lot of these, and since I'm not in this one, I can say this drives me crazy sometimes what the log lines end up being with a network.
Yeah,
Like as someone who's in it, I'm like, or I'll be like, that's the first 5 seconds.
like
Or
Saving the
I'll be like, there's
Bakery
no
is
obstacle.
like Saving the Bakery is not a big part of this plot
So I
at
bet
all.
somebody wrote
Like the
that log
bakery's
line
fine.
who didn't know the story as well. They
No.
like got it either they like the some people gave it to the network and it wasn't a very good log line.
Yeah.
Came up with one and that person hadn't really watched it.
Yeah.
Or like it had just gotten distilled when people were like, we need one sentence. Because sometimes I'll laugh because there'll be, it's usually like a couple sentences or like one long sentence. And then like sometimes you'll go on Hallmark and I laugh on I watch on Friendly usually. And I'll laugh at the like because they only get like 6 words or something on there, and they sound like Saturday Night Live sketches. And you just read them that way, and it's not, because it's like, how do you put this character-driven story in 6 words? So yeah, I agree. I think, but as an actor, that frustrates me a lot. I'll be like, that is not what our movie's about.
Yeah, I mean they have this whole community day, and the sales of the cookbook do help the bakery. But I wrote down that so he's upset, which makes no sense because she only did the right thing. Like at every point, she barely even considered, like as soon as her sister expressed any reticence, she was like, "Oh, we can self-publish." Like there was never a sense of her trying to
and
trick
the brother-in-law
people,
was totally like the brother-in-law was basically like, I don't want to upset the elders or the deacon or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, and so like, yeah, for him to have that, I agree. I was sort of like, and also like as a female, like when he showed up, I would be like, I'm glad you've come around, but what's to say you're not going to just totally gaslight me the next time we argue and like shut me out, like anxious attachment style much, or sorry,
and she
avoidant
says
attachment style much.
I mean, she says to her boss, "My family comes first," and there's no question that she would give up her job for her family. It's never, she's nenever the bad person. Like, there's no redemption arc here. She makes the right choices.
And so for him to do it, that was a little bit of a weak point for me. Another thing, we're talking about like Amish things that bother me, and I could be wrong here because again, only done my own research, but they kept saying with the Englishmen, like, well, we send it to the Englishmen. And I was like, Englishmen? I've never heard. It's always Englishers. And I was picturing these like, what do they call them? The Queen's Guard, like, with the hats and this. And I was just like, call them Englishers. That was the one Amish thing that was driving me crazy. But I do love that they brought it back. Speaking of with the dad, where he just immediately is like, yeah, we're all about forgiveness. And all of the stuff I've learned about the Amish, like that is the biggest thing, partly forgiveness, but it's not so much, it's just more that like in their view, it is not for them to judge. They leave it up to the higher power. And in no way is it their job to dole out punishment or judgment or anything. And that's a really consistent like core value. And I feel like it doesn't get talked about as much. Like, it's a great thing to base these stories on. Like, I was like, this person, I didn't realize it was a two, right? I just saw the Jennifer Snow and I was like, what a perfect Christmas writing name.
Yeah.
But
She did 7 Christmas movies this season, Jennifer Snow. She's like
geez.
unbelievable.
Well, I thought with this, I was like, she's got, because like it's tricky, right? And I'm sure you
Yeah.
noticed this with like the Hallmark as a writer and a performer. I have a lot of friends who write for Hallmark, and you know, so much has changed in the last couple of years as the tastes have changed, what they want to show,
Mm-hmm.
and then with Great American being the
Right.
character, and a lot of the more like cookie cutter story fits the exact formula is going there. And so I think like as a writer, it's tricky to be like, how do I give the audience everything they want, hit all these points, but try to make it feel fresh
Sure.
and not just copy and paste.
Yeah.
And I felt like she did a really good job of that, where, like I said, as a writer, a lot of times I'm like the writing and as an actor, a lot of times I'm like, the script is the weakest part of this.
Yeah,
and we got to
yeah,
make it work,
yeah.
and we try to sell
Yeah.
it. But I was like, in this case, I was like, I thought besides some of that obstacle stuff in the
Mhm.
last couple acts that I agree was not high enough stakes. I was like, this writer knows how to do this artfully.
Yeah. I really liked the dad. He says, we choose our own happiness, fear, anger, resentment, they steal joy.
Yeah.
That
And
was a
that's a
good
great Christmas
moment.
sentiment too.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the tips I got early on from Hallmark, was like, we never want to see, which I mean, this could have existed at a different time of the year, you know, maybe that's why it's on Hallmark, I don't know. But like they always said, like, we never want to see a movie, no matter what the hook is, that could exist in a different time of year besides Christmas. It shouldn't look like just do this, but make it Christmas. Just do like it
Yeah.
shouldn't need to happen at that time of year. And that's something I really internalized.
Mm-hmm.
And with those messages, at least, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that feels very of the season. It's good for me to be reminded of, like, oh yeah, I should forgive more. Oh yeah, I should not let those things steal my joy.
Yeah. It's interesting because you see all the memes all the time of like, oh, Hallmark decided to make a second plot, and you know that Chat GPT wrote another Hallmark movie and all that. But people don't realize the amount of time and effort that goes. I've interviewed enough writers over the years, the amount of time and effort that goes into something like, how do we do the near kiss? How do we do the you know, these sort of tropey elements? How do we make it work? And I do think that the kiss there was a near kiss, which was fun, and it wasn't like stupid because it was the daughter that interrupted, which, you know, makes sense.
Yeah.
You know why? Because a lot of times you're just
that
like,
would have become a whole different movie.
Yeah. I'm just like, a lot of times these near kisses, I'm like, that would not stop me from kissing.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, a car drove by.
Yeah.
Well, pick up where you left off.
Cell phone. I always say cell phones are the thief of love. But you're not gonna have that here, obviously. But I did like this scene where they kiss, and he says, I'd really like to kiss you right now for the record. And then she says, I'd really like you to kiss me right now.
Yeah.
That scene was I thought it good. And they don't kiss actually in that scene, but I thought that was a swoon worthy line. That was good. I'd really like you to kiss me right now.
Yeah, that's great. And I liked her. She was always like, sometimes, you know, the female lead characters can be so like damsel in distressy. And I felt like she was very take charge and confident throughout, where I was like, you know, you don't want to watch one of these movies where, you know, the director of Amish Wedding, Richard Ramsey, I think he just did one actually with Candace Cameron Bure, something hero-y, like
oh yeah.
I think he just directed that. But I think when we did it, he had done a faith-based one, which I think that one was faith-based too, but ours was the first more like mainstream one he had done. And he was saying how his kid, because he's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this different? Like, we know how it's going to end.
Right.
And his kid was like, yeah, Dad, we know how it's going to end. That's not why we watch. We watch
the journey,
how it's going to end.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's trickiest with these stories, is the like making the how, like you're talking about, interesting. Like, we know that they're going to kiss, and now there are some where they don't end up together, but we still like follow that same journey.
Yeah.
We're not mad that we know where it's going, but like get creative in how you're going to do it. let us feel like, even if it's just the voice of the person, the people talking, that we haven't seen it happen that way already, or that, and like with that line that you were saying, like with them, I was like, that's fresh, right? The cell phone didn't steal the love.
Yeah.
But that was a good line. And especially I feel like with these writers sometimes, my friends who are writing for Hallmark, it's like they're doing 4 at a time sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, how do you still let each story be individually told, as if you're not like, place send, place send, place send, place send, like going on and on.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
And I think that, like, I actually have more respect hearing that this writer has so many things in production. And who knows if they were just sitting and they were canned for a while and she brought them out, or if she was really working on them all the time. But I was like, there's some fresh stuff here.
Yeah. And as she says, fear should not drive decisions. Doing the right thing should. And and
I use the first part of that with my students all the time. Like, that's such a good advice one. I'm like, are we making this choice because of fear?
Yeah.
What would you do if you weren't afraid? Right. And like, it's not a cliched, overused thing. If it was, I wouldn't need to say it when I teach, because like, be like, duh. Of course we want to be truthful and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll definitely be watching some more of this writer's stuff.
Yeah. She had one called We're Scrooged that was also on Up TV that was a very clever take on.
I love the title.
It was a clever take on Christmas Carol, because it was the story, of course, we know and love, but it was a couple getting Scrooged, getting the ghosts and everything, which I thought was very creative.
That's cute.
Yeah, it was clever. So
I know.
she's
I'm always
good
thinking, like, what is in public domain that we can
she's good at taking these tropes and kind of give them a new twist.
Which I wonder if you get her on here at some point. When it's off the air, so she can tell you the truth. I want to know, like, is she a fan of these genres? Like, what does she read? What does she watch?
Yeah, we had her on, and it's kind of funny because she's actually sponsoring the pod, her books this week. This week, so y'all get to hear a lot of Jennifer Snow. She's great, but yeah, she was able to transition from writing for Harlequin, writing novels, to writing these screenplays very well, and
that makes so much sense to me, because after novel 2, I was like, scripts are so much easier because like, you don't need to have everything thought out and planned out and doing that. So shrinking it down, it's like, you can really, I feel like when you start writing scripts, you're trying to get pieces to just fill it. And when your brain is used to a novel, you're like, I have all of this, and now I need to like narrow it down.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easier to make a story full, so that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. And when you have characters that we care about and we're invested in them. And she did, I think, a very good job with this one of particularly the sister relationship and the father as well, but building up relationships we actually were invested in, we cared about.
Yeah. And I mean, as a person, and you see so many, right? You're not a person who's just putting them on while they're decorating the tree and walking whatever. And it's just so nice when there's one, because I'll be honest, if I wasn't that into it, I would have just like watched the first 10 minutes, skip to the end. Like, I can chat about it.
Yeah, we would have just done a normal interview because I wouldn't put you in a situation, like if you weren't into it, then I would just be like, sure, come on, we'll talk. It'll be great.
I was like, that would also be fun. I totally, like, you could do good cop, I do bad cop. What were they thinking?
Yeah. And I legit would buy this cookbook.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
The only thing that I thought with that is I was like, I love cookbooks. And I
Yeah,
was
me
like,
too.
why are they acting like when she's like, it has to be like the more for that boss that we didn't like anyway. Where I was like, do they know how many Amish cookbooks there are? Because like I had one. I
Right.
bought one. We were at a store that carried Amish stuff, and
Yeah.
they had it typed like on a typewriter, spiral bound. Someone had laminated it. You know what I mean? And I don't know if they printed off their computer. It didn't look like it was like a typewriter, but it had
Yeah.
illustrations. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's probably
and
not
I've
like
made a
stop
couple.
the presses. This has never been done before.
Well, it's funny because when
Like they were
Kevin
acting
did,
like.
because there was a lot of that in a plus one Amish wedding, but you know our props weren't authentic, and ever
Right.
since then I've been like, I want to try a real shoe fly pie. Like I want,
Mm,
what is it? Because we describe it, we talk
yeah.
about it. I've read the recipes. Like I got one out of one of my recipes. It was like
Yeah.
make a traditional Amish because I get all the recipe magazines, and I was like lots of molasses, okay, but
Yeah.
I wanted to taste the screen multiple times.
It's kind of like a shoe fly pie. It's kind of like the filling of a pecan pie, but a little more
Oh,
molasses-y.
that's
Kind
my
of like
favorite
that.
pie. It's
Yeah.
Kevin's favorite pie too, so maybe I can get it. Because for me, I'm like, man, it takes a lot. Like we cook, we're big cooks. We make cocktails. We do, on our late
Yeah.
weeks, we have like every plate or Hello Fresh or something. But we still like, we just love to
Yeah.
cook. And so, but pies, I'm like, that is time consuming and
No.
expensive. I want to
Yeah.
know I'm gonna like it before I make it,
Whoever said easy as pie is
right?
not, I don't understand
And I
that
used to
person.
like be like, why is this pie $20? And now having like made some pies, I'm like, probably cost $20 to make,
Yeah.
especially like pecan. They're low this season, but they have been pretty
Right.
high.
Yeah, I'm a decent cook. I cannot get pastry. It's either like stiff or it
Oh,
just
I always
doesn't.
get pre-made
I was in charge of
pie
actually
pie
I
stuff.
was in charge of pie for the Thanksgiving I attended this year, and I my friend Marie Callender's
I was
made the
I was like,
pies.
you know what? I was like, when I'm not making something, the amount of times that I have thawed the like blackberry Marie Callender
Yeah.
pie, and everybody is like, and I maybe I put it in something. I don't lie, but
Yeah.
maybe I present it slightly differently.
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
everybody's like, this pie is amazing. And then once they've all eaten, I'll be like, got it from the freezer aisle, Marie Callender. I'm not even talking about Marie Callender's
I
store where
mean,
they're fresh.
not only is it saving tons of time, but it's legit better than anything I could make. There's no
Oh,
comparison.
same. Especially because, like I said, I'm not going to make the pie crust myself. Like, I don't care. My family, if I always say like the little things. So my brother-in-law, they'll grow and dry and grind all the spices for things. They
Oh
used to
my
have a
gosh.
company.
Yeah.
They don't have it going right now and stuff. And I would be like, that is great. One, you don't have children. But two, like if you really enjoy it, otherwise no one is gonna appreciate that enough to make it worth it. And that's how I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I like doing it? Otherwise, like we're skipping that step.
No, that's true. One of my good friends from college, she runs this family farm in Ohio. And I love watching her Instagrams because she's got like all these cows that she's milking all. She's super passionate about it, and it's a great life for her. I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so much work just for food.
Yeah.
I guess I mean, I love food and cooking and stuff, but I don't love it that much to like
No, me
literally make it
neither.
my whole life.
No, I mean, I think I could spend that much time because I'm a big gardener and I get really excited when people use like
Yeah.
stuff that I grow, or I can be like, I grew those, I grew that, I grew that, I grew that. But even that, like about a month ago, I was like, I think I'm done for this year. And I'm pretty sure everything's dead now.
Yeah.
So you can't do that with
And,
cows. That's
and
just like SPCA's coming knocking on your
yeah.
door.
And I absolutely love following her. I am so happy for her. She's living her best life. Absolutely. But just for me, I'm just like, I
You
don't
need
know. It
all
has to, it
kinds to
has to
make the
hit
world
that
go
sweet
around.
spot of like easy, yummy, and try to be on the healthy side. Like
Yeah.
that's what
Mine
I
used
try
to
for in my
be,
life.
I got better. Mine used to be, it had to take less time for me to make than it took to eat, which really limits you. And then honestly, like a lot of people during COVID, I think I also just didn't really know how to cook. And then
Right.
I was like, well, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And like,
Yeah.
and I will usually split up the week. Like I'll do 3 nights, he'll do 4, or vice versa. So that we're not doing it constantly. But then like last night, it was late, and I was like, let's both cook together.
Yeah.
But that still only took 30 minutes.
Right. Well, and it's hard too as a mom because kids are so picky.
Yeah, I will say since we started cooking, it was a great lesson because the kids got way less picky.
Oh, that's
because we were making like they at one point, Atticus, our older son, was like, yeah, I told my friends we never eat the same thing twice. And Kevin and I looked at each other and we're like, hey, you do. You eat the same thing twice. We like a recipe, we make it again. But we had just gotten so excited that we had such a rotation that by the time something came around again, and also a lot of people with young families, and we live in an expensive city, like we don't want to spend all of our money on eating out. So the minute we do eat out, we're like, how do we make this at home? Right. But it is hard with the kids, but we're very much those parents that were like, well, if you're starving, you will eat it. Otherwise, take a bite of everything. You have to make sure you don't like it. And you can have an apple.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
I mean, there's a million ways to raise a kid, but it works.
And as far as like nitpicking in this movie, the only thing that I really kind of questioned was in like the town, that carnival scene.
Mm-hmm.
There were like lots of Christmas lights, but they wouldn't have that, right? Electric Christmas lights in an Amish.
Also, like, I didn't even notice that. I'm fired. I fired myself.
I mean, I guess if it was using the generator, maybe, but
I mean, also it doesn't make sense that they would be doing that because the whole thing is that like the Christmas cards that they do, that's supposed to be like the most elaborate thing because they're like, oh, that's how the English are celebrating.
Yeah.
They don't really do the pizzazz and the, you know what I mean? So, and are they using a generator
for Christmas lights?
Clearly,
I don't think they would do that.
They showed us the generator and then never used it again because that sound guy would be like, guys, we're going to have ADR everything. Because we've got where you have to have a generator.
Yeah.
And, or a lot of times they'll have a generator because we'll be like in a barn and it's July and you need the air conditioning. But then you're like, I hope they need to stop for a while because you can't run that thing when you're filming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, where did they power those lights? And who bought them? And why?
It would have been a cool moment to have like candles, like to have a whole bunch to as we say on the pod, to Jack Thornton it and When Calls the Heart.
Absolutely. Although then I'm like, wait, was this union? I don't know if the actors were union. If the actors were union, this is a union production. I forget where it is, but where you have to have a fire marshal. Maybe they were like, we're not doing
that. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, hey, I have the lit up candles in my house that are on like a timer. Those
sure.
Jet.
They do look good. They really do.
And then you don't have to worry about them getting blown out.
Yeah, we kind of tease about in Jack Thornton on When Calls the Heart that he cleared out the Bed Bath and Beyond in Hope Valley.
Yeah,
cute that the sister gives her the starter.
Yes,
the
6-year-old starter that survived the fire.
Yeah, you can't.
Can we hear more about how it survived the fire?
Yeah, you can't stay for Christmas. I'm so sad, but she gives her the starter, and that was a big COVID-y thing too. Everybody's getting sourdough starter. Right?
Which I said because Kevin's gotten into he's starting to do more baking. We have mom's bread maker upstairs, which I don't think is Amish proof, but so the first thing as I was watching, I was like, hey, did you know you can't use metal when you do sourdough? Yeah, because it's acidic. You have to use wood bowls and wood spoons. And he's like, what? And I'm like, they just said that. I believe it.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't know that either.
I know.
So yeah, and then he comes to the city. He gives her the drawing of her and her sister, which was nice. And he says, at the first sign of trouble, I bailed because I know, and I shouldn't have, because I know what we have is special. And he says, I'm falling in love with you. And it was cute that she says the best part of an Amish Christmas is we have a whole nother day. Cause I guess they have second Christmas day.
Yeah, I didn't know
that was cute. I didn't know that either.
Maybe that explains the time jump of them getting all the way back to Kentucky.
Yeah.
I love how he's like, just leave your daughter here. All right, bye. No, that would be, and I liked, I liked that they didn't make, I think it's so easy to make the city, the big bad full character. And it was sort of secondary. It was more about her thing there. Yeah. I liked how she wasn't every guy in the city's only bad and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
We know that trope. And she was just like,
Right.
I haven't found the one that's right for me. And then her sister's like, sounds like you're describing an Amish man.
Oh yeah, that was a good line. When
Yeah. And I was like, that's cute, because that doesn't mean like, I mean, that's a big thing for me, right? Like, I live in the big city. I grew up in a small town, and I'm always like, neither one's bad. They're different, and they're right for different people. And I like when movies don't make things like black and white.
She says she wants a man who works hard but isn't a workaholic, who isn't addicted to his cell phone.
I remember being like, preach on, sister.
Who wants to go on walks with me and enjoys my company. And then her sister, you just described an Amish man. She's like, this upbringing spoiled me.
That was so cute. And I thought it was especially cute because like she's not ended up going for an Amish man. It's not that on the nose, but it is a guy who appreciates the Amish way of life.
Okay, so it wasn't actually the bakery that was closing. It was the one that they sold items to.
The customer.
Yeah, the customer.
I got confused about too, because
yes,
nobody suggested that at first. Her solution is the cookbook, and then she's like, oh, and then she's like that they didn't want to go sell. Like her husband's like, we haven't even approached all these other bakeries that aren't Amish, but then they take those quilts and stuff out. So I was like, I'm confused. Like you're
and then they're saying we can make this like a tourist attraction,
right? But like when they were
the
taking
bakery
the quilts out to sell,
because they were doing like they were kind of wholesale. They were, so they would sell to the other bakery who would then sell their stuff. Is how I think.
But that one was Amish.
So they're saying we can make this bakery its own unique attraction, whatever,
instead of just selling.
Instead of being a real reseller.
Yeah, and instead of like having all their stuff in like English or bakeries.
Yeah. And so then they'll have the cookbook and the quilts and the other stuff like that.
Yeah, I like the quilts thing where they said like, the Englishers like to hear the story. I forgot how the Englishers, well, she said Englishmen, but how the Englishers like to hear the story or whatever. And I was like, we do. That's why we're watching these movies. We want to hear the stories. And the Amish are like, cool, have fun. That's our everyday life.
But it was pretty nuanced for one of these movies. It, like you were saying about I always joke that you can't be a good person in the city in a Hallmark movie unless you are running a parade or a window designer. Those like two the allowed careers.
Or running an animal rescue. I think.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And here, evidently, you can be a beleaguered employee of a publishing company.
Yeah, right. They always say the rules are, unless you can justify it with these or old Hallmark, right? They have to either be a designer, a writer, like it's always
a lot of photographers.
Yeah, photographer. It's always got to be a glam creative job, fashion designer.
Yeah. You can't be a lawyer.
No, you can't be a lawyer. Only but your city boyfriend can be a lawyer. He can be a lawyer. We love when he's a lawyer.
I'm like, why are they dating these people? They're horrible.
Because they have to go home, Rachel, to figure out what really counts.
Right. And she does, and she remembers what she loves about her upbringing, which was nice. And it was just a pleasant, sweet little movie. I'd give it out of 5. We did 5 crowns on this pod. I would probably give it like a 3.5.
I was going to say the same thing. I think it's a 3.5. And I would probably rate like different parts, different things.
Yeah, me too.
But that feels like a good all-around summary. Yeah. I definitely would tell people to watch it if they like the Amish movies. Because like I said, I tend to look at those with a more critical eye, and I really enjoyed this one.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, if people want to follow you on social media, all that fun stuff, how do they do that?
Yeah, I love talking to people on social media. Instagram is usually best. I have a date with one of my students to teach me how to use the TikTok, but not there yet. Okay. I wonder why there's an account, nothing on it. That's because I'm old. Gala Elf at GALAELF is great. And even though I do have an author page, I'm kind of trying to merge them over because, again, not super tech savvy. So whether it's for books, acting, anything, it's the Gala Elf is a great place to talk to me.
Great. And remind us the book, the title.
Yes. So this actually was released 4 days ago. In Christmas, and you can order it straight through the publisher. It's also on all the places, so Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Bookshop, Target. It's all great, and it's really fun. And I worked with some really talented editors on this. And it's the same team as my first novel. And actually, we'll be doing a giveaway on my page soon for a signed copy of each, if anybody wants to come and keep an eye out for that, because it's still fall. So you can do the fall cozy one, and then you can do the Christmas one. And if you like one, you'll like the other. Although I have to clarify, some of the fall readers are very sad. This is not in any way a sequel, but I gave you all an epilogue. I'm sorry, but that's done. It's told, but it's a new one.
Yeah, cool. Are they in like the same world at all, or totally
they're
separate?
100% in the same world of theme?
Okay, good.
And journey. So if you liked Love Against the Autumn Sky, which was the one that I really feel like would make a new Hallmark great movie, because it's really, like you were saying, like the female relationships, there's romance, but the female relationships are front and center. But this one is a little more rom-com-y. The other one is a little more, if I were gonna like put them on a network, I would say Autumn Sky is more like Hallmark
Channel
movies and mysteries.
Oh yeah,
more like main channel fun.
Oh, good. Perfect. That'll be great. Well, we'll have, like I said, our affiliate link we'll put in the description. People can check it out. And thank you so much. And I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. This was a blast.
Yeah, you too, Rachel. This was a blast. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Galadriel for coming on the podcast. This was so much fun. It's always really wonderful when somebody wants to come back on, especially to talk about it. This was something she did not need to do. She didn't need to come and talk about someone else's movie. It's not like she's on press for it or anything. She's not involved with it at all. So I think it was very flattering that she wanted to come on, and had a great time talking with her. Hope you all enjoyed it. Let us know what you think of all the different things that we talked about in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. Me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. If you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. Really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is so much fun. Please check out the Patreon group. It's the best way you can support us and all that we do. And you get exclusive watch alongs, your Q&As, and you get to be part of the discussion, and you can request podcast episodes and all different kinds of stuff. So please check out the Patreon. And then we also have the merch store where you can get and we also have the merch store. You can get everything for the Hallmarky Hardy or postable in your life this holiday season. Please check that out. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So thanks so much to Galadriel. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.